Right now, we're going through a time that no one's really prepared for. A lot of students are left without access to a computer, and those who are provided with a laptop by their school are placed under certain limitations, such as not being able to download programs. This really stunts the growth of any student who wants to learn programming, 3D modeling, or anything that requires them to download a program. When a friend reached out to me saying that he couldn't download Java or Android Studio on his school-provided Chromebook, this really struck me and I decided to take action. After a bit of back and forth, we decided that the best solution to this problem would be me downloading a virtual machine on my desktop and then him remotely accessing it through a program like Chrome Remote Desktop, TeamViewer, or Parsec. This way he would have no limitations and he would have access to a much more powerful machine which he could do more stuff on. After going through this process myself, I found out that it was actually surprisingly simple. Because of this, I urge anybody with extra desktop horsepower that they don't necessarily use to do the same as me and help somebody in need in your community. Now that we got our desktop booted up, the first thing that we want to do is download an OS, and I'm going to be going with Linux. You could go with Windows, but the thing is, Windows is a lot less efficient than Linux, and if you're going to have a machine running in the background the whole time, you're going to want it to be efficient so it doesn't slow down either machines. And since the machine is only going to have a little bit of RAM, a little bit of CPU, you want that to be fast for what it is. So you should probably go with Linux. Now, the next question we need to face is which Linux distro. So Linux has thousands of distros, each catered to different use cases. Some such as Manjaro and Pop! OS are feature-rich. Others are focused on stability, like Fedora. But I'm going to be going with Ubuntu because it's so widely used and it'll definitely work with our VM software. To download the ISO, you usually just click the download button and it will automatically start down. Download the ISO file to your desired location. I already have it, but I'll just download it anyway. The next thing you're going to need is VirtualBox, which is the program we're going to be using to do all the virtualization. VirtualBox is a free and open source virtualization software, and it's really fast and easy to use, so we will be using it here. Just press the big download button and press for Windows host, or if you're using Linux or Mac, you can also download those hosts there. And then just install it to where you want. I already have it, so I'm not going to install it right now, but just follow the installer and it should be good to go. Now that we got the downloads done, we need to set up our virtual machine. Right here I have VirtualBox open, and as you can see I have my VMs on the left side. These will be blank for you if you haven't created any VMs in the past. What you're going to want to do is press New. This is how you create a new VM. You can name it whatever you want. I'll just call it Tutorial VM. And then I am going to select the type as Linux, and then the version as Ubuntu. I'm going to be checking Ubuntu 64-bit because I have a 64-bit machine, but if you have a 32-bit, make sure to press Ubuntu 32-bit. But I have a 64-bit, so I'm pressing 64. Then press Next. This is where you choose how much memory you want to give to the VM. 1 gigabyte of memory should allow it to run, but how much memory you actually need is completely dependent on how the client will be using this VM. In this case, I'll allocate 4 gigs of RAM to this VM. To find out how many megabytes that is, you can fire up your calculator and do 1024 multiplied by however many gigs of RAM you want. So in this case, I want 4 gigs of RAM, so I will allocate 4096 megabytes of RAM to the VM. Once we're done with that, just press Next. This next screen is creating the virtual hard drive. To create this, you first press Create Virtual Hard Disk Now, press next on VirtualBox disk image. This next screen right here, if you click fix size, it'll immediately take out the max amount of memory from your hard drive, whereas dynamically allocated will only use up the space that it fills up, as it says right here. Here you can specify the amount of storage you want to allocate to this device and the location of the virtual hard drive. I want to put this VM in a separate drive than my main drive. So I'll just select the drive and then press save. I also want to allocate 50 gigs so the client will have some wiggle room to download as many programs as he likes. I'll set that to 50 gigs and then press create. After you click create, your VM should appear on this left-hand side panel. Next, select the VM and press settings. Go down to system, processor, and select how many CPU cores you want to allocate to the VM. Again, this is completely dependent on your system and how fast you want your client's system to be. In my case, I'll allocate 4 cores, or threads in my case, to this virtual machine. Next, go down to the display menu and allocate the full 128 megabytes of video memory to the VM. Next, click storage. Here we're going to want to set the ISO that we downloaded in the first part of the video to this VM so that we can install Ubuntu on this VM. To do this, press this disk that says empty and then this disk right here, this disk icon, and then choose a disk file. Here, navigate to your ISO that you want to choose and then click open. All the other settings should be good, so you can just press OK at this point. So now that we got everything set up, we can just launch the VM. So press start and it should be booting up. Yeah. So when you get up to the startup disk window, you're going to want to click on the ISO image that you loaded in. So I loaded in this one, so I'll press start after this. And it should boot up like a normal computer at this point. So once you get to this screen, you want to install Ubuntu. So press install, then choose your language and keyboard, and then you'll probably want to choose normal installation and click these 2 checkboxes. This just makes it easier to set up. It installs a lot of stuff that you would want to install anyway. You can leave them unchecked and then install them later, just so it won't install some stuff you won't want, just to keep the size down a little. But I'm just gonna leave them checked. Then you're gonna want to check erase disk and install Ubuntu, and then I'll just press install now. And then it'll just ensure that you want to erase the thing that you're going to erase. But since you're in a VM, this is the only drive. So I'll press continue, then set my location, and then you want to set your name of your PC and your password. So I'll just call this a tutorial VM, and then I'll just set a password, and then yeah, this is just normal setup. There's not really anything special. So once the installation is complete, then you'll get this message and you just want to press restart now. So when this message comes up, then what you're going to want to do is just X out of the machine, say power off the machine, and then reboot into it by just pressing start. Now we're almost there. We just have a few more installations and then we'll be done. So log in. Even when VirtualBox is maximized, you can see that the Ubuntu system doesn't fill the whole display like we want to. Go to the Device tab and then to Insert Guest Edition CD image. When you click on that, you should be prompted with this message right here. And then when you press Run, you have to enter in your password. And then the terminal will pop up and it'll start installing things. When it says press return to close this window, press enter and then restart the machine by going to the power button, power, restart. Once you minimize and then maximize the thing again, then as you can see, it's filled the whole entire window now, and it works like we expect it to. Now we got a working VM set up. This should work for anyone that wants to just run a VM, but if you want somebody to access it remotely, we're going to have to install some other software for them to remote desktop in. The remote desktop software that I use for this application is called TeamViewer. It seems to work the most consistently with this Ubuntu system, so I'll show you how to download that now. Go to your Firefox and type in TeamViewer. This first link should work, and then press download. It should automatically go to the Linux tab, and in this tab, download the either 64 or 32-bit application that matches your system. Since we're running Ubuntu, we're going to download this. We're going to want to open with Software Installer. Click on this Ubuntu software and then press Install TeamViewer. Enter in your password, and when the install is complete, press X, Activities, go down to these 9 dots, and then go to the second page and there should be TeamViewer. Accept the license agreement and you're all set up. Your client should be able to download TeamViewer on his or her Chromebook and remote desktop into this. If they aren't able to download TeamViewer, then look around for another remote desktop app that they have access to, such as Chrome Remote Desktop or Parsec. Because this is in a virtual machine, they should be able to control the mouse and keyboard of the virtual machine without messing with your mouse and keyboard inputs on your host device. Therefore, the solution works remarkably well. Allowing somebody to use your system like this opens up a whole world of possibilities and learning experiences for them, which is why I urge you all to do this if you have the capability to. Also, it's a great learning experience for yourself to learn stuff about virtual machines and Linux. It only takes about 20 minutes to set up and is pretty straightforward. Anyways, I hope you do this and I hope you help somebody in your community who needs it. This will definitely make these times a lot easier to get through and is relatively easy to do. Anyways, I hope you learned something new here today. If you like this video, like it. If you loved it, subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section. And yeah, have a nice day.